Let's get into it. Coach Colin here. Soul Not For Sale podcast. Oh gosh, guys. The worlds are colliding. You remember Seinfeld? The worlds are colliding, Jerry. The worlds are colliding. Donald Trump is going at Joseph Allen Rogan. I don't know if his middle name's Allen. I have no idea. It just came out that way. Listen, I made an episode just yesterday about this. I was like, I don't know why he seems like he's endorsing RFK Jr. I was like, maybe he doesn't know. And I showed you guys some clips of RFK being a raging liberal, which he is, which is fine. But I was like, there's a lot of things that RFK is for that Joe Rogan has shown himself not to be for. I even said that he had a lot in common with Trump. Now, I'll show you the clip. I'll show you what Joe Rogan said, because for the first time in a while, Joe Rogan actually put out a tweet. That's how serious this got. And I'll show you what Trump said. Let's get into it.
That's just what they do. That's politics. They do it on the left. They do it on the right. They gaslight you. They manipulate you. They promote narratives. And the only one who's not doing that is Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
You a fan?
Yeah, I am a fan. Yeah, he's the only one that makes sense to me. He's the only one that he doesn't attack people. He attacks actions and ideas, but he's much more reasonable and intelligent. I mean, the guy was an environmental attorney and cleaned up the East River. I mean, he's a legitimate guy. You know, before anybody started calling him an anti-vaxxer, which I thought he was too. I thought he was this nut, this like conspiracy theorist nut, until I read his book. I read The Real Anthony Fauci, and I'm like, what is it? How much of this is real? Because if it's all real,
then that's effing insane. That's what he ends up saying. And then he talks a little bit about the pharmaceutical industry and the money that's all tied up, the dark money that's all tied up in that. And we all know that. But what everybody heard was, when you were asked about RFK, you said he's the only one that makes sense. Now remember that, guys, but Joe Rogan gave a statement about this. He doesn't usually do this. He said, for the record, this isn't an endorsement. This is me saying that I like RFK Jr. as a person, and I really appreciate the way he discusses things with civility and intelligence. I think we could use more of that in this world. Now, I will just say before I read the rest, he made sure to say that RFK is the only one that makes sense. Now, if I'm talking about you as a friend, I'm not going to say, Mark, you're the only one that makes sense. Jim, you're the only one that makes sense. I'm not going to say that. Brad, you're the only one that makes sense. I'm not going to say that because you're my friend. I'm going to be like, yeah, I like the guy as a person. I like when we sat down and you'd explain. But to say he's the only one that makes sense when someone's asking you if he's a fan and he's a presidential candidate, people are obviously going to take that as an endorsement. You do not have to have an envelope in front of you and be like, ladies and gentlemen, my official endorsement. That is not how endorsements work, okay? If you're on a huge platform like he is, saying something like this is a clear endorsement in a lot of people's eyes. He goes on to say, I also think that Trump raising his fist was the most American effing thing of all time. I got to get that word off the screen quick. I'm not the guy to get political information from. If you want that from a comic, go to Dave Smith. He actually knows what he's talking about. But a lot of Dave Smith knows what he's talking about, but it's a little rantish and it's not as well balanced as Rogan is. And he really does know what he's talking about, really in depth. But at the same time, he's a libertarian. So a lot of people like getting information from Rogan because they know he's a center guy. They know he's someone who would be considered a classic liberal, but a lot of things, due to how far left the left has gone, make him pretty in the center. Some people take that as fence riding, but I'd rather hear stuff from Rogan than from Dave Smith. But I do love a good JRE Dave Smith episode. It's always loaded with information. So, right wing X is shredding Joe Rogan for endorsing, in quotations, RFK Jr. during the podcast. The claim Joe Rogan endorsed RFK Jr. for president. In my opinion, just based on the way language works and the fact that you have hours to explain yourself within a podcast, I would say that this is an endorsement. I just do. Saying he's the only one that makes sense. Like, I heard Joe Rogan say, I'd rather vote for Trump than for Biden. What am I going to take that as? He's just talking? What am I going to take that as? Every single thing he says is a joke? I'm going to take that as that's what he would rather do. He's a man. He's talking. I'm going to take what he says seriously, unless I know he's joking, right? So he said that already. He's given this endorsement of RFK. A lot of people didn't like it. I mean, a lot of people. I mean, if we go into the comments, I got to watch it because X comments get out of hand. Most people don't actually care about your endorsement. We want you to have Trump on your platform. That's 100% true. 100%. Trump is the GOAT. The dude took a bullet to the face, got up and yelled, fight. Man, a lot of people, you were asked a question off the cuff. Yeah, let's not, listen. X comments get really, really dicey. I don't want to jump into that. But this is what Joe Rogan what Donald Trump ended up saying. He heard about the endorsement. He more than likely saw this tweet. And then 2 hours after Joe Rogan made that tweet, Donald Trump says it will be interesting to see how loudly Joe Rogan gets booed the next time he enters the UFC ring, MAGA 2024. Oh, Trump, come on. Don't come at my boy like that, Trump. Oh, man. Oh, my gosh. That is sad to see. You know, it's funny. They got a mutual friend in Dana White. I wonder what's going to happen with Dana. Dana's going to be like, listen, I'll set up the fight. Okay? I'll set up the fight. We'll go 5-ounce gloves. Are we good with that? MMA style? Okay, let's go. That's what's going to happen. And don't count my boy Trump out. He has power. He has reach. Guy's like 6'4". He has reach. Give Joe Rogan one of those. And then Joe Rogan will maul him. Obviously. Joe Rogan will make that exact face. He'll take one punch, make this face, and then it's over. And then what do we do from there? I don't know. Very interesting stuff, man. Again, Joe Rogan is starting to see the things that he says, and he's known this for a while. The things that he says do have major ripple effects. It goes into the news. There are channels based on the things he says. So, I mean, I look into the analytics all the time. Joe Rogan gets searched 10 million times a day, and people aren't just searching for his podcast. They're searching for clips. They're searching for perspective. They're searching for all sorts of things that have to do with Joe Rogan. He's starting to realize with this fame, he's actually saying it out loud. And this is something that I've not wanted him to say for a long time, but I respect this a lot. The fact that he's saying, I'm not the guy to get political information from. I appreciate that so much. If you want that, go to Dave Smith. He's even directing people who to go to. That's what you should do. Rather than kind of dancing around and saying, I don't want to support Trump. And then, for months and months after, when it seems like, well, I mean, not even when it seems, when you can see how Biden is, you can see how the country's getting, you're saying all these positive things about Trump. People want you to have him on the platform. Patrick Bet-David talks to you for at least 10 minutes, at least 15 minutes about having Trump on the podcast to humanize him. And then you don't do it. It's like, you gotta eventually, what he's doing the Jon Snow thing. I don't know if you guys ever watched Game of Thrones. He's being Jon Snow. He's like, I don't want it. I'm the king right now. I don't want it. And honestly, guys, I will say this. This is why, and he's probably feeling this, and it probably actually feels good for Rogan. Tucker Carlson has overtaken him as the #1 podcast. I don't know if you know that. Tucker Carlson posts twice a week, and within the time that he has started his podcast, which has not been a long time, he has overtaken Joe Rogan as the #1 podcast. So that's very interesting to see. Also, the Tucker Carlson team makes sure to post their episodes the same time as Joe Rogan's podcast, 1:00 p.m. So that's very interesting to see as well. I think they both post on like EST time. I'm not 100% sure, but 1 p.m. both of them. Tucker Carlson is overtaking him. I feel like Joe Rogan feels a lot of relief in that. I mean, to be number one, people just want you. Like, if I go down these comments, people are like, you need to have Vivek on your podcast. You need to have Trump on your podcast. Some people are like, you should have all presidential candidates on your podcast. And honestly, that's a lot of pressure for one guy to take. It's a lot of pressure. I can handle it. I would love that. I would welcome that 100%. But for someone like Rogan, who's doing so much, so dedicated to comedy, he's a comedian first before all things. I mean, probably husband, father first, but you know what I mean. He's a comedian before he's a podcaster. He's definitely a comedian before he's a political pundit. And, you know, I guess he's letting us know, like, I'm not the guy. I'm not the guy. We'll see. I have some episodes queued up where he is talking about politics once again, but he's going to give his opinion on things. It's a hard balance. It's going to be a hard balance for him. But right now, this is literally this does nothing to Rogan. You know, some of his fans might actually react to this, but this is a hard one. I mean, you're just a guy with kids. You're like, oh, I'm going to go to the mothership soon. Oh, man, it's Friday. What are we going to get into? I'm going to do a show. Oh, yeah, no, I'm done the podcast. Hey, later, Jamie. And then all of a sudden people are like, hey, Donald Trump just called you out. You're like, what? Who? Donald J. Trump? Donald Mar-a-Lago Trump? Really? Mr. President? Oh, no. What do you do from here, guys? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section of all this. I think it's not going to affect Joe Rogan all that much. I can't wait to hear him talk about it. If he's actually going to mention Trump calling him out, he might mention the whole endorsement thing as well. But it's all very interesting. And a lot of people are alleging also, I'll just end it with this. They're alleging that he's going to sue MSNBC for $30 million. Zero sources on that. I've seen a lot of channels like mine pushing that story. They have no facts towards it, no substantial evidence of this at all. But if he's doing that on top of all this, Joe Rogan has his plate full, I have to say. Wow. Anyways, guys, just wanted to bring you that story. Who do you think is going to win this celebrity boxing match? Is it going to be Joe Rogan or Donald J. Trump? Let me know in the comment section. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Other than that, I'm out.